Well, good afternoon, good evening, good morning, wherever you happen to be around the world. Welcome to Office Hours here on hosting.com's Agency Success. It is a rare Wednesday office hours this week because it is Thanksgiving week here in the U.S. Of course, most places will be closed tomorrow, and we certainly didn't want to do office hours on Thanksgiving. So glad you're here with us today. We have several questions in the queue to get started. Looks like 7 questions in the list, and the link to ask your questions is there waiting on you in the chat. Several little bits of news I wanted to start with today. Couple of bits, and then I'll just start with this because if you are a Mac user, this is a great deal, and I would suggest you just grab it. It's $3. It is an app I use almost every day, and it's just great. Text Sniper puts a little icon up in your dock, and when you do capture text, you get something like this. And I'm just going to capture this, and it just made that into text. So like you can capture anything you want from an image. It's very accurate. I use it all the time. And so this is a no-brainer. $3, just go buy it. It's, I don't know, it's half price or something. Oh, 75% discount. I don't know how much it is usually. I guess that's $10 or something. It's worth $10. It's absolutely, it's like a don't even think about it. Just go buy it for $3. So just go to your Mac app store and it's there. Doesn't work for PCs. It's a Mac app. So sorry about that. Get yourself a Mac for Black Friday. That's a good deal. Anyway, so that's a really good deal that I wanted to mention to everybody. Second thing I want to talk about is that WordPress 6.9 is imminent. So the release candidate 3 was released yesterday, and we're looking at Tuesday for the launch of WordPress 6.9. So that is coming up. Thankfully, they did not schedule it for the holiday weekend like they have in the past. And yeah, so this is it's quite good. A lot of neat things in this schedule. So I want to go over a couple of the high points of WordPress 6.9. A lot of the latest WordPress versions have been, not a lot of stuff to get excited about. Interesting developments if you're into the side editor. But 6.9 has some interesting things for all of us, and it's particularly important as there's a lot of really good building blocks that are added in 6.9 to some of the really incredible features that will be coming to WordPress next year. So let me hit a couple of those. This, by the way, should be pretty safe to just update all your sites on. We always wait in my agency for at least a week, maybe two, maybe to the .1 version. Whenever a major core version is released. And I'd still recommend that, but there's not anything that I've seen here that is incredibly dangerous looking that might break things if you update. So anyway, let's just look at a couple of these things. So right off the bat, there's this interesting new feature called Notes that if you use the block editor, I think you'll find very helpful, especially if you're collaborating with other people. So this Notes edition gives you basically this. So here's a few screenshots that are shared in the GitHub on this feature. And it allows you to see notes from your collaborators on a particular page or post. And so you can check it as done or addressed or whatever. It's an internal collaboration system. There is this new icon up here that drops down for comments, which honestly, I think could be a little confusing with front-end comments. I don't know. I mean, I get why they called it comments, but anyway, so there's sidebar. You can mark as resolved, collapse, all the things. And so I see this to be pretty darn cool. You can show resolved, show my comment, show it in the canvas over here. That was the first view. So this is coming. It's going to be part of core. And this is a major piece of the collaboration initiative that's coming in later versions of WordPress, where there will be real-time collaboration. So no more of this, hey, so-and-so is editing this post. Would you like to ask if you can take control? All of that is, all that's going away, and you'll actually be able to have the same page or post open together. And in some of the demos I've seen, if you've used tools like Figma, where you can actually see other people's cursors, it's kind of trippy. That's supposed to be coming to WordPress. So we'll see if that actually happens. But this commenting system is the first very small step toward that goal. So just scrolling on down here a little bit. Let's see. The Fields API is interesting, although probably we won't see any first immediate uses of that in this version. A couple of this is kind of cool. They have changed. How many of you get really frustrated with dragging and dropping blocks in the block editor, and you usually end up like, I'll open up the outline view and do it there? Well, this is changing now, where look how this works. You can actually, when you mouse over a block, it puts this big Mickey Mouse hand and makes it real easy to drag and drop the block. So that's kind of cool, and that's going to be right away ready in WordPress 6.9. It also has the ability to hide blocks. So over here in the icon, or pardon me, the list view, you can click the kebab menu, and there's the ability to hide a block if you don't want that to be seen on the front end. You can just hide it, but it's available to look at and so forth on the back end. That's kind of cool. They're also moving the post editor into an iframe. This is also very important for future things they're trying to do in WordPress, because this is going to make it a lot more reliable of a viewer, especially when you get into viewports and responsive views. So that's a kind of a techie ad that you might not notice immediately, but it's going to be a big difference as WordPress continues to grow. A couple of other things here. There is a math block. You saw it up there a minute ago, but this math block right there. So you can actually do a math function here. Now, why does that matter? Well, because you could it's going to be extendable, where you can add custom fields and things like that in there right in a block. So that's kind of cool. There is a new accordion block coming to 6.9 that's accessible, and it's pretty good. Yeah. Scrolling. Okay, here's where the fun stuff starts to happen. The Abilities API. Now, I've talked about this a little bit in the past, but the Abilities API is a game changer for WordPress. And the reason I say that is Abilities API is kind of like, you might think of it like a dictionary of every single thing your site can do. So you've got a bunch of plugins that can do different things. And the Abilities API is a way for core WordPress and plugin developers and theme developers to like add an entry for everything that theme can do, everything that plugin can do, all in a single, consistent, standardized place, so that other plugins can interact with other plugins better, but even better than that, so that the future AI components of WordPress can do all these things. So this is like a foundational piece of bringing some standardization around how themes and plugins and core reveal or expose what their abilities are. And then a tool like an AI MCP, or however WordPress decides to integrate AI, will be able to hit those features and do different things. So really super cool thing that will be, I think we'll start to see some really amazing AI features in WordPress in 2026. Interactivity API is also going to be a great help to developers, especially because it brings in the ability to have micro interactions on blocks. And some of that might just be fun little mouse over things. But the cool thing is it will allow, just say, for example, you have a search bar. You can have that search bar interact with a query block on a page so that your search results happen immediately. So they can interact without a page refresh. So a lot of cool stuff here. A lot of foundational things, as you can see, are happening. So anyway, some performance increases. They're modernizing the character set. Anyway, so a lot of this stuff is under the hood. There is support for PHP 8.5, which is good. PHP 8.5 is coming. So anyhow, that is all some really neat stuff that will be dropping on Tuesday, December the 2nd. So there you have it. Quick overview of WordPress 6.9, some interesting things. The most interesting thing, though, that is coming on December the 2nd is creating your starter site. Part 1 of this live stream series. We'll have 2 of these in December, part 1, part 2. The first one on December the 2nd, the second one on December the 16th. And if you have not yet signed up for that, the link bundle is there in the chat. These are free. And for those of you that have been with me for many years, this is a piece of the Creating Your Own Starter Site course that we've done for many years in the past. We'll do 2 parts this year, a foundation and customization. So we'll be digging deep into the foundations of WordPress and getting a good, clean install, and then building on that with some customizations of plugins and snippets and that sort of thing. The goal at the end of both of these live streams is you will have a starter site that you can use to replicate for all future projects that you do in WordPress. And so it's a lot of fun. There's a lot of under the hood WordPress stuff, and we end up talking about many, many things about WordPress far beyond just the starter site, but that's our goal. So that's all coming, free live stream December the 2nd and December the 16th. All right. Let's get down to some questions then. Moving into, let's see, beginning with Beth Livingston. All right. And by the way, we are up to 7 questions. If you have a question to ask, the link to do so is there in the chat. So, all right, Beth Livingston, question. All right, Beth says, I'm moving sites to managed WordPress on hosting.com. Pausing for a moment. This is one of the best Black Friday deals that's out there right now. If you haven't seen yet the hosting.com, the managed WordPress deal, this is the managed WordPress, managed hosting for WordPress powered by rocket.net here at hosting.com. It is $1 for the first month. They always offer that deal, but 6 months free when you buy a year. So it's basically half price if you purchase the year. And rocket.net is an amazing platform. It's incredibly fast. It just makes everything so easy. So the question is, after moving sites to managed WordPress on hosting.com, they move the sites following the steps to go live. The instructions are to change the DNS settings that are usually A records pointing to an IP address, and instead it's a CNAME pointing to site, and you have no A records at all. It seems to work just fine, but please explain this setup in regard to hosting.com and why it's different than when using Cloudways. Okay, it's different because that's the way their platform works. And whether you have a CNAME or an A record, they both do the same thing. C records and A names do the same thing. It's just that an A record points to an IP address, whereas a CNAME points to a name, like something.wpdns.site. They do this, they're pointing traffic the same way. So there's no functional difference. It's just one uses an IP address, one uses a name, and hosting.com, the rocket.net piece of hosting.com, that's just the way their infrastructure is set up. So it's neither one is better or worse. It's just how the infrastructure was built. All right. Melanie, that's a great point. So if your hosting company changes your IP address at some point internally, you don't have to do anything. They're controlling all that in-house. So that's also good. But again, it's neither one is better than another. They both do the same job. It's just, what is it pointing to? IP address or a name? So is that good, Beth? Makes sense? Excellent. All righty. Well, then, on to question number 2, also from Beth Livingston. I sense a trend here. Okay. Follow on to the previous question. The instructions also set all the CNAME records added in the go live process to not proxied. Explain that too. Yeah. Okay. Because you don't have, it's like all those Cloudflare rules that you had to worry about before. And I think you had a lot of questions about that in the past, Beth. All the detail about Cloudflare, you don't have to worry about any of that if you're on rocket.net. They just handle it for you. So the managed hosting for WordPress powered by rocket.net that you've bought through hosting.com, the one that's 6 months free right now, built like rocket.net is basically a WordPress hosting wrapper that's built on Cloudflare Enterprise. This is the level of Cloudflare that is super crazy expensive that only big companies usually get access to. Rocket.net built their infrastructure around that and added a wrapper to make it WordPress specific. I'm oversimplifying it, but that's basically what it is. And so you don't have to worry about any Cloudflare settings. Matter of fact, none of the settings that you have in your Cloudflare are even going to matter. So none of those firewall rules, none of all that stuff, you don't have to worry about any of it. So Cloudflare, or pardon me, Rocket.net handles all of your Cloudflare stuff and it just works. They also, by the way, handle all of your image optimization and image caching, all that stuff. It's handled. Because it's Cloudflare Enterprise, it pushes the all those images out to the edge of the Cloudflare network, and they're automatically optimized. So, yeah, that's why it's such a good deal. All right, several follow-up questions. Sue, even Stripe for payment. So, Sue, I'm assuming what you mean there is, does their firewall rule account for Stripe payments? And yes, it does. It's smart enough to know that. Beth, so you don't need EDub or Short Pixel anymore. If you'll want to ask the friendly chat person in your Rocket.net dashboard about that. I don't think you do, but just confirm that. Okay, that's something I'm not 100% sure of. I'm in the 90s, but I could be wrong about that. I believe all that image optimization is part of Cloudflare Enterprise. And Paul is asking, does hosting.com's VPS, VDS also go through Enterprise? No. So that's the big difference between Rocket.net and the VPS, VDS, virtual dedicated servers that hosting.com offers. Rocket.net builds all that stuff in. Now, as a result, you don't have quite as much flexibility as you do if you're running your own Cloudflare DNS and rules and all that. But with customization comes the technicality. So it's a trade-off, right? It just depends on what is more important to you. Okay, great questions. Yeah, and Beth, you know what? If you got time right now, just jump on the chat support with Rocket.net and ask them about that question. I would like to know the answer personally. All right, great questions. And okay, one more from Beth, which is an example, by the way, everyone, that you can ask your questions at any time because she got these questions in some time ago. At any point you want, you can go to wpnathan.com, click ask a question, and you can have a question in line for office hours. All right. Another DNS question here from Beth. If a subdomain is nothing more than another domain for all intents and purposes, why use a subdomain? Why not use two different sites? Okay, so basically, yes. A subdomain is a separate website. They're two separate web properties. Period. It's not even for all intents and purposes. They are two separate web properties. The difference is that the ownership of that subdomain comes underneath the domain. So there's like one organizational ownership in the domain structure. But as far as users are concerned, it's two separate sites. As far as Google is concerned, two separate sites. So it really just depends on, branding, for example. We have a big nonprofit that we serve that's kind of in the educational space. And they have a main website at their just whatever.com. They have a store.whatever.com because that stuff needed to be elsewhere. They also have something else that we're building for them. That's another subdomain. So it's to separate the content. And there's reasons that it needs to be separated. But yeah, they are separate websites. And your question, why not use two different sites? You are using two different sites if you have a subdomain. If your question is why not use two different domains, that's really more of a branding marketing question. It just depends on if you want to have another domain for it or not. All right. Does that answer your question, Beth? Got it. Excellent. And once again, I closed all the windows. It's not good. I'm doing this more and more frequently. I wonder if that's a sign of something. I apologize for the brief pause here and to the video editor who now has to reposition the screen. Okay, let me get back logged in so I can see the questions and we'll move on. Oh, dear. Okay, next question is from Stacy. Hey, Stacy. All right. Stacy says, I have a client who has returned after taking his website down for a few years. He's a naturopathic doctor and had some concerns with liability during the COVID era. I bet. I put up the archive copy of his website as he asked, but of course, his articles are a few years old. He sent me links to several articles he had published on other websites over the past year and asked me to put them on his site. What's your suggestion on handling this? I know he wrote the articles, but I ask if he still has the rights to them or if the rights transferred to the site where they're published. I don't think he quite understands. I suggested we could have a new category in his blog that is published elsewhere and then made an overview snippet of each article and link to the site where it's published. Is there a better way to handle this? Great question. So the there's a few, so let's just work on the layers, right? So you are absolutely right to ask him. The question is, who owns the copyright to those articles? Because even if he wrote for another publication, they may retain that copyright. And even if they didn't talk about that because it was published on their website, they may just by virtue of the fact that it lives there have copyright. That's something, you want to ask him. If he doesn't know, then what I would do is just use AI and rewrite it. Like, or you could write you mentioned an overview, and you could do that, or just have a summary and link over there. So there is, like, if you do a summary and link to the full article, you'll want to put a rel equals canonical on that a tag. So it's like this: href equals original article URL rel equals canonical. I don't know if that has, you want to check that. I'm not sure if canonical has, I think it does. I think it does have quotes around it, but just double check that syntax. I'm not 100% sure. So that basically what rel equals canonical does is it tells Google that this is a snippet, but the SEO authority belongs to this article. So it helps you from not getting dinged by duplicate content if you're actually pulling a word for word chunk. What I would do, though, is just get AI to rewrite that article for him, where it's basically saying the same thing, but in different words. Just go through that process, honestly, that we went through in that AI copy live stream earlier this month, and then give it to him to edit. I would do that, and then you have some actual blog articles, or even you could feed an AI project all the articles he's written, right? And use that as context for the project and say, hey, suggest me 10 more articles we could write based on this type of content. Get his feedback on that, and then write some draft articles that way and just see. So there's a lot you can do here with AI, I think, that will help. But obviously, for any client, but especially one that's in this line of work, you'll want to make sure that they sign off and edit and do all those things. Does that help, Stacy? Okay, and we have a response back from Beth, who chatted with hosting.com. So you should, okay. If you are on rocket.net, the managed WordPress by rocket.net that hosting.com offers, you should disable EDub, short pixel, and similar plugins. They provide automatic image sizing, compression, and optimization using Cloudflare Polish. Yeah, so it's all included. This is what's so crazy about the offering from rocket.net. And yes, a single site is $30 a month, but what they are offering is you don't have to pay for Cloudflare APO, which is $5 a month. You don't have to pay for Polish, which is $5 a month. You don't have to pay for any of it's all built in. You couldn't buy the features that they include and have cheaper hosting. It's crazy. So that's great news. So you don't need any image optimizing plugins or any performance plugins at all on your site. They give you WP Rocket, and it works really well inside of rocket.net with certain, and they tell you what settings. There's a guide of what settings. So all that's included. You don't have to buy anything else. Pretty amazing. And Phoebe is saying, yes, they automatically do backups too. So there is a daily backup that's just part of that system. It's a great hosting platform. It's where NathanIngram.com lives right now. Okie dokie. Great questions there. And let me encourage you, if you have a question, The link to ask it is there in the chat. And Beth is correct. You do have to install WP Rocket if you want it. When you set up your account, they'll send you an email with the instructions on how to download that to your account. Okie dokie. Awesome Paul is next. All right, here we go. How are you handling links to outside sites? Do you open them in a new tab? I know doing so is bad for accessibility unless you have the little icon and have it set up for screen readers. However, I have clients that think that icon muddies up the site. Thoughts? Yeah. So that's a tricky one. And it's, if you are, gosh, okay, it comes down to this. Your client needs to make a decision about accessibility. So our role in this, and this is where I will bump heads with some people in the client services world. Some people are purists on accessibility in the sense that it's like an ethical thing. I'm not going to build a website that's not accessible, whatever. I get that. I totally get that, and I am pro accessibility. However, if your client doesn't want the little icons, then that's their choice. So my role, the way and I'm just going to speak for myself, okay? My role in those situations is as a consultant. So it is my role, my duty to at least briefly educate the client on why we would do that. And they can then make the decision with the understanding that, this is not the best practice and it doesn't meet the guidelines. Now, it could be that they don't have to meet legally, they don't have to meet those guidelines. Many websites do not. They just don't yet. But it's ultimately the client's decision. So, yeah. Now, here's the other thing. There are like the accessibility tool we use to deal with this issue is the one from Equalize Digital, accessibility new window. How does it new window? Well, anyway, somebody will look it up and stick it in the chat. It's accessibility new window options, whatever, from Equalize Digital, and it just looks at all of your external links, anything that's target equals blank. It puts a little mouse, like when you mouse over the link, it says opens in a new window, and it adds that little new window icon that everybody knows what that means, right? I find that the text on the tooltip and the icon are generally too large, right? And so there's simple CSS you can add, and it's actually baked into our base site that makes it a little smaller and not quite so obtrusive. And that's what we go with in most cases. So yes, thank you. And the link is in the chat, accessibility new window warnings. That's the one from Equalize Digital. Paul, on a new site build, if accessibility is not part of the contract, do you add it initially? So we know. Well, it depends on what you mean by accessibility. Do we ever guarantee to meet accessibility? Absolutely not. Too much legal issues there, whatever. If a client they have to meet a certain level of WCAG, then we'll bring in someone to help with that because that's just liability I don't want. And it's big time liability. So I think the question you're asking is, do we add that new tab plugin by default? Yes, it's in the base site. And we try to build making decisions with accessibility in mind. Like when we look at colors, when we look at all the things, we try to build with an accessibility mindset. And a lot of it comes down to make sure your images have alt tags, don't use any hovery JavaScripty things on the page, and make sure your page has good semantic HTML. And that covers a big chunk of the accessibility puzzle. So yes, we build accessibility first with decisions. And if the client pushes back, we'll explain why, but it's their site. Next question, also Paul, which looks like it may have been the first question I should have asked. Oh no, they're not related. Okay. All right. Alphabet soup question. So how many of you have seen this alphabet soup in your database stuff? UTF-8, UTF-8, MB4, MB3, all of that stuff. Okay. In PHPMyAdmin, I saw this message. UTF-8 is currently an alias for the character set UTF-8 MB3. but will be an alias for UTF-8MB4 in the future. Please consider using UTF-8MB4 in order to be unambiguous. Are you familiar with it? Best practices. Okay, so let's talk about what in the world this is. UTF-8 is a character set. So what that means is think about a big grid of all the characters in a font. Okay, that character set are the characters that are available to the database, right? So all the weird, funky characters, like they're all in there in this big grid of all the things that are available. UTF-8, and this probably, I'm going to guess, Paul, if you're seeing just UTF-8 by itself, this is probably a really old site, right? Probably, because that used to be the standard. And then they increased that to UTF-8MB3. I can't remember what the MB part stands for. You can Google it. It's an acronym that means something, but it's basically a broader character set. There's more squares in the matrix of all the characters, right? More characters available. UTF-8MB4, more characters available, right? So it's just expanding the character set, right? So UTF-8, if it's set for UTF-8 and stuff's using UTF-8MB4, it's fine because UTF-8 is a subset of UTF-8MB4. Alphabet soup. Okay. So the bottom line is eventually you probably may just want to change this. It's going to take a SQL function. It's not hard to do. Your favorite AI tool can probably walk you through it. It is changing the database, so definitely back up. If it's a massive, massive, huge site, it might take a minute. So you want to do it off hours. But I doubt, like, unless your site has just millions of rows, it's probably not going to be a big deal unless you're on shared hosting and there's not a lot of horsepower. So all of that considered, it's pretty simple to do. You can do it with a SQL function and you'll be done. We will talk about this a little bit next week in the starter site course because it's one of the constants in the WP config file. We'll be doing a deep dive into the WP config because that's where a lot of the gold is in WordPress that we just kind of pass by. And it's helpful to sort that out and make it easier to understand. And one of the constants in WP config deals with what character set like am I using here. So does that help? Any other follow-ups on that from Paul or anybody else? I'm looking forward to that starter site live stream next week. It's really one of my favorite things all year to do. Okie dokie. Alphabet soup is finished. Is UTF-8MB4 the best to use? Yeah, that would be the default. And if you install WordPress fresh, it's going to be UTF-8MB4 just by default. Your newer sites, I don't think I've seen a UTF-8 site, since like 10 plus years ago. It's going to go way back. Yeah. Yeah, so UTF-8MB4 is the current now I don't want to say standard, but basically it's like the default. Yeah. Okie dokie. Melanie is next. Melanie has another Lightspeed question. Many of my clients have editor access that they use to make changes to their site. Yep, good practice. They don't, as a result, have the ability to clear the Lightspeed cache because the cache icon that you see for Lightspeed, like right here, right there, is only available for administrators, right? So correct. They don't want to use admin access for editing. Yep. Or they don't want their designated person to have admin access. Do you have a function to grant editors the ability to manually purge the cache? So the first question is, why do they need to manually purge the cache? Because when you publish a page in WordPress or update a page, it's going to clear the cache. But if they really legitimately need to, there is a plugin, which is here. I'm going to drop this in the chat and drop it here. Okay, so this is not on the WordPress repository, so be aware all the risks and things that come with downloading a plugin from GitHub, but this is a plugin that does exactly what you want it to do. So this will let you choose the roles for the various features of the Lightspeed plugin. Terry, I think you're right. I just don't know what it is. I think there is a URL with a bunch of query strings you can go to that might purge the cache if you're logged in. That might be worth investigating. But this plugin, we're using it on a number of sites right now, and it works just fine. We have no issues whatsoever. And you can add whatever, and it's like this role and higher, right, has access to the various features here. So this is a good one, and this is the solution that we're using for that very issue, for the very reason. Melanie says, next, add clear cache next to the icon. Oh, like would it put clear cache up here? I mean, maybe you could, honestly, if it's that much of an issue, you could drop this entire plugin, and the Lightspeed plugin for that matter, into like what I've started doing, and this might be worthy of a live stream later. Using Claude as an AI tool, you can give it access to a local directory on your computer, and like I have dropped full plugins in there with their directory tree and all their files, and Claude can read that and use it as context for writing code. So my guess is, Melanie, you could drop the Lightspeed plugin and this plugin into a local folder like that. Tell Claude, hey, what I want to do is have a just text in the admin bar on the back end for editors and hire that says clear cache, and it can look at all of that and write the function for you. And it could just be an MU plugin for that matter. So take a look at that. I've found that that is now my favorite way to create code. I actually just let Claude write to the file in that directory. So like there'll be a folder in that Claude local folder for the thing that I'm working on, and it can just no more copying and pasting snippets. It can just write into that file, which I can then look at, make sure it's good, and upload it. It's so much faster of a way to deal with code than it used to be. Claude says, Paul says, the next plugin update, the custom code goes away. Sure. This would be its own standalone plugin. It probably an MU plugin, because it would likely just be a very small snippet of code if I had to guess. Because it's just it's adding something to the admin bar that's calling an existing function that empties the cache. And this would be an MU plugin on its own, or just a function wherever you're putting your snippets. Yeah. So you wouldn't actually be modifying the plugin. The reason you'd want to drop those plugin files in there is because Claude can read all of it and use it as context to understand how these plugins operate and then write something. Anybody doing that, by the way? Have you tested that method before? I think we've talked about it here at one point or another. It's such a nice way to write code. And I'm finding that I'm using Claude a lot more for development than I am ChatGPT. All right. All right, next question. This is the last question, by the way. So if you have a question you'd like to ask, the link to ask it is there in the chat. All right. Oh, that's not it. Question. This is a good one. And we'll let everybody weigh in on this. Are there any AppSumo or Black Friday deals that I am considering? So let's hear it from you folks too in the chat. Are there any AppSumo or Black Friday deals that you have purchased or are considering purchasing here in this season of shiny things? I will say I have really I'm trying to be very wise with my money this year and not buying anything. I'd have, however, bought a couple of things. Not nearly as much as in years past. Let me find the tool that I bought on AppSumo. And I'm not sure if I'm going to keep this or not. I need to experiment with it more, and I can't remember what it's called. I'm I'm gonna have to log in because I can't remember what it's called. Just a minute. It is an SEO keyword research tool that I think is going to be really good for us. Chris tested it and likes it, and I can't remember what it's called. It's great advertising, right? SimDash. Okay, so I don't know. Jury's out on this one. We'll see. I think it's going to be pretty good. It looks interesting. We need a good keyword research tool. I'm skeptical of any AI powered tools that are on AppSumo, just simply because, my goodness, AI is moving so quickly. So many of those things that we bought apps for are just, they're like, it's a wrapper for AI. So just get AI to do it, right? So I don't know. I think this one is going to be pretty good. I'm not convinced it may get returned, but we're going to play around with it and see if we like it. The other thing I bought is this one. And this was like literally for a client project. I bought Traft. How many of you have used this before? This is a booking platform, like Calendly, for example. It is better than TidyCal because at the basic level, you get multiple users. So it's like for a company that has multiple employees or different people who are working. I'm doing this. I've set this up for a nonprofit where people within the nonprofit need to have their own booking schedule, and each individual person can connect their own Google Calendar, their own Zoom account, and so forth. And this is so weird. The next level up of TidyCal, you can still only have one Zoom account, which just doesn't make any sense to me. But we really like this. And I'll tell you something. The thing about Traft that really got my attention, it's a good product. And by the way, this is from the people that built Amelia Calendar. I can't remember who they are, but they built Amelia. And this is basically a SaaSified version of the Amelia WordPress booking calendar. Their AI bot, the little AI chat thing that I usually hate those things. And you probably the same way. Like those things are annoying. But this one was actually amazingly accurate. And I would ask it questions on how to do things that would tell me exactly where to go and whatever. There was one out of like 30 things that I'd asked it for. Only one of them had to actually go to the customer support team and had to wait for an answer. I was like, I'm fascinated just by how in the world they trained their AI chatbot to be that accurate and good with information. So those are the two things that I've bought. That's really it. I am considering Perf Matters. And by the way, this is just mean. This is a competitor tool that is paid for ad placement with a title that is their competitor's name. That's just, I don't like that. But Perf Matters, I may actually spend money on this. We'll see. All right. What else? What's the name of the SEO tool on AppSumo? I'm gonna drop that in the chat. It was SEM dash, SEM dash. And thank you, Terry, for dropping in the Traft. What else? What are you guys looking at? I'm really interested to see what anyone else is spending. Let's see. Whisperflow.ai. I think I've heard of that. What does this actually do? Turn speech into polished writing for any AI app. Interesting. Oh, so it's like a replacement for your device dictation? Is that right? Interesting. Okay, I haven't seen this. Is it really that much better? Talk your Oh, okay, interesting. I mean, the the Chat GPT and Claude app both already have a spoken interface. Um, is it better than that? This is interesting. Let's see. So usable in any app. So basically, what we have here is a resurrection of Dragon Naturally Speaking 7 for Windows. Is that goes back a ways, folks. Oh my. Let's see here. What else? Oh, you know what? Alvin, thank you. I was looking at this just this morning. I saw a post in the Facebook group about this. So the Shure people, Shure Cart, Shure Trigger, Shure, all the things, have gotten this SEO plugin. It's a little pricey for lifetime deal. Normally, you see lifetime is like 3x of the yearly price. So that it's a little expensive. I do like the UI though. I don't know. I'm not ready to spend $800 on a brand new plugin, though. It's the only thing. It is from the Shure team. They're a proven team. Anyway, let's see. What else did I miss up here that folks have mentioned in the chat? Scrolling. Events calendar accounts. Oh, billing event. The events calendar is offering 30% off of early renewals. That's interesting. Huh. That is interesting. No, I didn't know about that. Anything else you folks are looking at? Paul says, I'm thinking about purchasing the agency plan on Go Safely Online. Okay, so I don't want to do self promotion here. This is something that Kathy Zant and I built last year. Um, the place to get the information for the agency is at monstersecure.com. And you can sign up. There is agency access. Yeah. So I'm not seeing the Black Friday. I got to take a look at that. We do have a Black Friday deal. I'm not sure why it's not showing, but it's basically security training for your clients uh, in a course that Kathy put together that makes web security for anybody that logs into their website, makes web security easy to understand. Here's another one from Terry. Oh, you know what? I saw this one too. So this is one, a PDF editor. There's so much stuff on AppSumo. You just have to be so careful because you can spend a ton of money on things that you don't actually use. Oh, I did also buy deposit photos. Um, Probably the most profitable purchase I ever make on AppSumo is the deposit photos deal. Um, I mean, I just use those all the time. I use them all the time. Yep. And I have far too many credits already with deposit photos. Very, very satisfied. Anybody else? Other deals you're looking at for Black Friday? There are many, many of them. Lots of good answers. Oh, I did not. Somebody mentioned earlier independent analytics. Uh, okay. That was interesting. Here we go. They do have really good Black Friday pricing on the lifetime deal. So it's now $3.99 for unlimited websites. That's pretty good. Um, the free version of independent analytics does most of the things that I like and need on a site. But if you need, campaigns and things like that, the paid version, $400 one time, you're good, unlimited sites. And I really, really like independent analytics. Let's see. Anybody else? Other things you're looking at? Terry suggests if you need to clean client email lists. Here you go. I have not ever seen this one. There are a bunch of services out there for this. Um, like a tool like this, unless I'm using it, this is me, but this is like the thought process I go through on thinking, do I want to buy this or not? Am I using this all the time? Do I really want to invest in this? Or is there a product that's out like am I going to buy this and next year it goes belly up, which is very possible. So many of these lifetime deals are dying after being around for a year or so. So a lot like with a service like this isn't something that I would do a lot. So probably I would just go with I want to pay X dollars to get this list clean and bundle that into the price that I charge the client. Stacy has this one and uses it on a couple of sites. Yeah, Terry, no kidding. If you get your money back, that's the real trick is, can you get your money back? AppSumo has been really good over the last year about refunding for closed deals, but as I've been reading lately, they're starting to tighten that up a little bit. So I don't know. It's a risk. Buying these lifetime deals is a big risk. All right. Anybody else? Oh, Melanie, still lamenting the passing of Perfect Recall. Perfect Recall was a fantastic app. I bought that and I lost a lot of money on it when it closed. I was grateful though when MeetGeek came around because we use that in its place all the time. All right, anybody else? Let me just double check, make sure no additional questions came in. Because I believe that is, one more question from Karen. Sorry about that, Karen. Karen says, Google Workplace offers a free calendar option. Are you a Google Workspace user? And if so, have you tried it and do you like it? And so I've never tried this, Karen. It's a great question. Is anybody in the chat using Google Workspace and the booking feature that's built into it now at the paid level? For my use case, there's a price involved with booking the call with this person from the nonprofit, so it wouldn't work in that case. Yeah, Google Workspace has added this booking piece quite some time ago. It's probably a year ago it started showing up. So, as long as you have a paid Google Workspace account, it is included. And by the way, I've not used this yet, but even in the hosting.com email offerings here, the email hosting services that hosting.com offers, scheduling is part of the cheapest plan. So there is Task Manager, all that stuff. This is, most of the major features of Google Workspace. So if you have a client that needs an inexpensive email solution, doesn't get much better than this. Karen is saying that Google Workspace can take payment at booking. That's interesting. That is interesting. Let's see. Oh, Jamie, what is the manufacturer of my standing desk? The manufacturer of my standing desk is called Nathan Ingram. Yeah, I actually built this one. I bought you can buy legs, like the standing desk legs, online, just Amazon. I think I got mine from Walmart.com like 10 years ago. And then the top is just countertop material. This is like an acacia countertop that I bought at a home supply place and finished it. Am I having a Black Friday? I don't think you want me building your stand-up desk. Yeah. All right. Anybody else? Other lifetime deals? Thoughts, questions, or snide remarks? Let them be known now. Let's see. Caution when buying. So, yes, this is exactly the kind of thing I was talking about, Terry. Oh, yeah, so there may be a shady developer here, but this is the kind of thing that it's like an AI-powered something. This is the sort of deal that it's automatically going to be a red flag because really, can't you just do this in AI? And at some point with a lifetime deal, your users, like they're going to start costing you more in what you're paying from the API for your AI tool. Anyway, it's, yeah. So be careful with any of that kind of deal these days. All right. Well, that's going to wrap it up for us today. If you are in the States, I hope you have a wonderful Thanksgiving. I am very grateful to be able to spend time with you here every week. And that is because of the wonderful folks at hosting.com that make that possible. Hosting.com sees the value that an educational community like this can provide for people doing WordPress with clients. And, ultimately, they hope that you buy something from them. But even so, it's their service to you. And I'm grateful that they've had me to be a part of that. And it's always great spending time with you folks. Hope you have a great weekend. We're back Tuesday for part 1 of that starter site course. So join us then here on hosting.com's Agency Success, where we go further together.